Hi, and welcome back to another lesson. This is the third part in my series about the 251 progression. In the first two parts, I explained what the 251 is and I showcased some voicings. In this part, I'd like to talk a bit about how and where to use the 251. This is by no means an exhaustive presentation, just a couple of ideas to get you started with the progression itself. Now, the main use of a 251 progression is that it can basically lead into any existing chord. Let's start with a simple example. Let's say I have a progression that consists of C, played for an entire bar, and then D minor and G, each for half a bar. So something like this. So I played it twice now. Now, let's say that I have some space in my progression and I want to make it more interesting. Space in the sense that I'm holding down C for an entire bar, so there's not a lot going on there, and then I have this sort of fast exchange between the D minor and the G. I'm using, of course, these aren't root simple triad forms, but they're still C, D minor, G. Now what I can do is I identify the target chord I want to hit. In this case it's the D of the D minor, and I precede it by a 251 in the key of D. Namely, I precede it by E, which is the 2, into the A, which is the 5, into the D, which is the 1, in the key of D. Now, exactly what harmonic characteristic I want to give it, that is, whether I want to use major or minor chords, so E major, E minor, A major, A minor, will actually depend on my artistic and musical tastes. So I'd like to play two examples for you that insert this 251 into the original progression and have you judge for yourselves. So let's start with an E minor going to an A minor, and then D minor and G, just as before. So it would sound something like this. So this obviously made the progression more interesting. Whether or not you actually want it to sound this way is, of course, a question of artistic choice. But it's a choice that you should be aware of and capable of making. Let's play the same progression, only now I'm going to play major for both the E and the A. I'm going to use one of the voicings that I've highlighted in the previous video, which I think it was voicing number 4. So now it would sound like this. So the same 251, only different harmonic tonalities, gives the progression a completely different sound. And again, it's your choice which sound you prefer. Some styles actually favor one and some styles favor the other, and of course you have probably your own musical taste, so just take a pick. And you can do this with basically any chord. So any chord you see in a progression, you can precede by a 251, where the target chord plays the role of the 1. Let me give you another example. Let's say you're playing a ballad. Let me switch to an electric piano. And let's say I'm playing a C and I'm then playing an F after it. So something like this. So very simple. Now, let's say I identify the F as my target chord, which I want to sort of make the transition to more interesting. So my F is now the 1, and the 2-5-1 in the key of F is G, going to a C, going to an F. And what I'm going to play is a G minor, going into a C major, going into an F. Actually, I'm going to play a G minor 9 and a C dominant 9, but it's still a 2-5-1, and it will sound like this. So I basically inserted the 2-5-1 into the progression to give it more sort of harmonic variation. This is also called the chord substitution, and I also have videos that deal with this particular concept, but I thought it would be particularly appropriate to show it in the context of the 2-5-1 in this video, in this particular series. A second use for the 2-5-1, which I find extremely convenient, is the ability to modulate to a different key. Now, by basically what the 2-5-1 does is it sort of recalibrates the tonal center of the listener. It tells him, listen, I'm playing a 2-5-1, so the 1 is going to be your new key. And the idea is not very different from a chord substitution. Let me just give you an example so you can get the drift of what I'm saying. Suppose I'm playing in the key of C, and then for some reason, whatever, I want to modulate to the key of E and play an E major. So I basically want my E to become my new 1. Now, to do this, I identify the 2-5-1 in the key of E, which is F sharp to a B to an E, so 2-5-1, and then I play it, or then I precede the E with this F sharp to a B to an E. I'm going to play an F sharp minor to a B major, and then to an E major. It's going to sound like this. So it's a lot less jarring to the listener than just playing a C and then suddenly playing an E. And you can do this over and over, and it's actually pretty amazing how far you can get changing keys throughout the song and having the listener sort of accept it. Let me give you an example. I'm going to start with C, modulate to E with a 2-5-1, then modulate to A flat, again with the 2-5-1, and then modulate back to C with a 2-5-1. So just to give you the rough idea for the E, we already saw that the 2-5-1 is an F sharp to B to E. For the A flat, the 2-5-1 is a B flat to E flat to A flat. And again, I'm going to play minor to major to major. And for the C, the 2-5-1 is a D to a G to a C. D minor, G major, C major. It's going to sound like this. think we're going to stop at this point. I've given you a few ideas to hopefully get you started on understanding and assimilating the 251 progression, and I hope this entire series has helped you sort of build up your harmonic vocabulary. I still stand by my original claim that this is, in my opinion, probably the most important harmonic progression you could learn as a musician, even if you're not a jazz musician. That's it for now. I hope you've learned something interesting, and I'll see you next time.